The brand new Subaru WRX is a fun, fast, and let's face it, furious car that will put a huge smile on most drivers' faces. But that's not what this video is about. Oh no, this is about geeking out on the tech and facts and figures of this car. At a recent press intro of the new WRX, we had a chance to sit through a very long PowerPoint presentation that went through in excruciating detail everything, actually more than everything you ever wanted to know about the new WRX. So, coming up next on the Fast Lane Car, and you've been warned, is more than everything you've ever wanted to know about the brand new Subaru WRX.
Originally, WRX was created with the goal of winning in WRC rally racing. More recently, we've shifted our focus into more kind of road racing with 24 hours of Nürburgring starting in 2008 on kind of more of an international stage. But in the U.S. market, we've continued to focus on rally racing with SRT USA, which has been able to achieve 7 Rally America championships since 2006. So very successful there, and also in participation in global rally cross. And overall, from the beginning, the WRX has continued to evolve. It's basically the ultimate expression of a performance Subaru. With the structure, we went to much greater use of the high-strength steels. And that's going to improve both the handling performance by giving us a more rigid structure, but it's also going to improve the crash performance. And so you can see here that we've added the hot stamp steel on the A-pillar and the top, and that's mostly for crash performance, but also on the side, we've had high-strength steel for side impact performance. But beyond that, we added a lot of structural reinforcements to the car, and this is some of the development that we were able to do because we focused on one body style. This is the type of reinforcement that wasn't in place on the last generation WRX or generations before. The body wasn't beefed up like this. But we reinforced the front bulkhead and A-pillar joints here, and again, some of this is for the new small overlap test, but overall both sides were enhanced. The rear floor and rear apron joints and panel joints. Basically every part on this car that's red is added for WRX, aside from the small overlap test part. Everything else is unique to WRX and was added to tighten up the structure. Torsional rigidity ends up going up about 40% versus the old car, and bending rigidity is up about 30% versus the old car. Another feature that we added to WRX is what we call active torque vectoring. Active torque vectoring is going to apply the brake to the inner front wheel when going around a turn. It's going to distribute some of the torque to the outer front wheel, and that's going to help bring the car around in the corners. It's going to give you more neutral steering, and it's going to give you higher cornering limits than the previous car. And one difference between torque vectoring and VDC is that torque vectoring is going to be when you're on the throttle, powering through the turn. VDC is basically watching your yaw inputs, your steering inputs, and the body, the car direction. And it's going to control all 4 of the brakes. If it determines that the car is understeering or oversteering, it's going to try to bring the car back in line. So it's part of the VDC system, active torque vectoring, but it does behave differently in different circumstances. But you will feel this, I think, today when you drive the car. The top of the engine is all the way down here, so that's going to help bring the center of gravity down, and that's going to help with the handling as well, even though it's not a suspension component. First up, the engine. The engine is our 2-liter FA series engine, similar to the Forester engine, but we made a few enhancements, and it's going to bring the horsepower up to 268 and the torque up to 258. So that's up 3 horsepower versus the current car and 14 foot-pounds of torque. But you can see from the graph, pretty much power is increased over the old car and torque over pretty much the entire RPM range. So it's going to feel stronger no matter where you're at. The direct injection system is ours, same as the Forester. It's not the system that's used on the BRZ, which is Toyota's direct and port injection system. And twin scroll turbocharger, and again shares the 86 bore and stroke with the FA engine in the Forester. So some of the other things we changed, we moved to stronger valve springs versus the Forester engine. That's going to help us get a higher red line. The chain guide also got longer, again, to help support the higher red line. And then versus the outgoing engine, our active valve control system operates over a wider range, and that's going to improve the output and the fuel economy. And then the turbo, like the Forester, is mounted immediately under the engine. That's going to help throttle response and emissions performance, and also let us use a lighter weight exhaust system. And adoption of roller rockers and plastic intake manifold to improve weight and fuel efficiency. Next up, transmission. So we have shifted from a 5-speed manual transmission to a 6-speed manual transmission.
No pun intended.
So this is a cable shift design. The shift stroke is reduced 12% versus the transmission in the Forester. We added carbon synchros for first and second for smoother shifting. And versus the outgoing car, the ratio spreads a little bit wider with the addition of the 6th gear to give you a quieter driving on the highway and a little bit better fuel economy there. Though I'm not sure how much time you guys are going to spend in 6th gear today. So next up, Sport Linear-Tronic transmission. Again, bringing the automatic transmission back to WRX. The last automatic WRX was 2008 model year, so it's been at least about 5 years since it was available. This is based on the Forester XT transmission. It's tuned for high performance. It's going to feature SI drive and 6 and 8-speed manual modes, which you can activate with the paddle shifters. But there are some key differences with this transmission. So this transmission is going to adjust to your driving style. If you're using light throttle conditions, it's going to use the variable ratios, smooth shifting. It's going to give you the maximum fuel efficiency, and it's going to drive very smoothly. But if you put your foot into it and you get into heavier throttle conditions, where you're in the Sport Sharp mode, the most aggressive setting, it's going to use step shifting. It's going to shift very quickly, and it's going to give you the feel of a traditional performance-focused automatic transmission. So it kind of gives you the best of both worlds. It gives you the efficiency when you want it, and the performance feel when you want it.
What about the launch mode, Todd?
Oh, that's coming.
Okay.
Next up, a little more detail. So with the SI drive, there's 3 operating modes. Intelligent, which is going to give you the smoothest power delivery and the best fuel economy. And it'll use variable shifting until you press the accelerator down past about 40% of the travel. Sport S mode, it's going to use higher engine speeds for kind of sportier driving feel, give you a little bit higher RPM. And it's going to shift into a step shifting kind of mode when you push the throttle a little bit less, about 30% down. And then Sport Sharp is going to operate as an 8-speed close ratio transmission all the time. And it will give you the sharpest throttle response and the most aggressive kind of tuning. And then in terms of shifting times, when we're in manual mode or step shifting mode, really the shift times are in line with some of the best automatic transmissions. Upshifting or downshifting, the performance is always a little bit different. But it's in line with ISF, Evo, GTI, some of these, again, dual clutch and traditional automatic transmissions, so it will shift very quickly. And then another thing that we have tuned with the car is we wanted the car to feel lightweight and responsive, even in terms of acceleration. So the car is tuned such that at a very light accelerator input, the car is going to begin accelerating. And so these are some cars that we had on hand in our test facility. We had a GTI, an A4, and a Sonata with an automatic transmission. And once you start pressing on the throttle, at just 10%, you can see the WRX starts accelerating quite a bit faster than these cars. And then at 25%, it's still only a quarter of the way, you can see how much quicker WRX is accelerating. So it's really going to feel, its car's ready to go and ready to have fun when you're driving it. And then lastly, adaptive control with the transmission. So in all modes, you're going to have uphill, downhill control, which is going to give you engine braking when you're going downhill. But in the S and S sharp modes, you've got a 2, 3, and 4, which is going to cover sudden accelerator release. So if you release the accelerator suddenly, the system's going to prevent upshifting to give you additional engine braking. Then if you're braking, if you're accelerating just after braking, the system will more quickly reduce the gear ratio, again to provide braking torque. And then lastly, it won't change the gear ratio or shift gears when you're cornering aggressively to avoid kind of disrupting the chassis mid-turn. And of course, I guess the last part of this. So why did we bring the automatic transmission back to WRX? And the reality is that the automatic transmission is basically a requirement. By our investigation, basically 60 to 80% of pretty much any car that has any sporting pretensions and offers a choice is automatic. And in fact, by our checking, only the Fiat 500 and the BRZ are more than half manual. With the BRZ exceeding 70% manual, which is really kind of not even close to anybody else. So Subaru buyers really like manual transmissions. However, we do have two versions of our symmetrical all-wheel drive system for WRX. The manual transmission models use our continuous all-wheel drive system, which is the same basic system as today. It's a 50-50 torque split nominally, and viscous coupling, locking center differential. It's purely a mechanical system, and it's going to transfer torque to the wheels with the best traction when there's slippage. The automatic transmission cars are going to use our variable torque distribution system, which uses a planetary gear type center differential and an electronically controlled hydraulic transfer clutch that's going to manage the torque distribution. It's always changing, it's always adjusting, but the nominal torque distribution is 45 front, 55 rear, so we're sending a little bit more torque to the rear to give you a little more handling agility with the car. Power to weight ratio exceeds all of our competitors in the price range of this car. This is still curb weights, not final, but this is a preliminary estimate. We should be best in class with power to weight ratio. And then in terms of acceleration, in our own internal testing, we have very, very excellent but acceleration conservative engineers. So we tested 5.4 seconds 0 to 60. That's the same as the old car in our testing, but some of you guys are maybe a little bit more aggressive with your testing, and the current car has published results that are quite a bit faster than 5.4 seconds, so we wouldn't be surprised if that happened with this car, because in our testing it's the same acceleration as the current car.
So down is good.
Yes. So yeah, on this chart here, down is good, and so you can see the WRX with the power to weight ratio and the all-wheel drive system. It's going to give you significantly quicker 0 to 60 acceleration versus our competitors. Even some of them that have more power, we're still going to give you that quicker 0 to 60 time. In terms of the automatic transmission, a little bit slower. So our testing internally is 5.9 seconds 0 to 60. But again, all-wheel drive is going to help you get significantly quicker all-wheel drive acceleration than our competitors. And we did add a launch mode feature that's going to help get the most acceleration out of the car if you want to try that. And so basically it's pretty easy to use. It's almost like you would normally launch a front-wheel drive. Normally launch a car, an automatic transmission car for 0 to 60. So you'll stop the car, put your left foot on the brake, and then you'll put your right foot on the gas, bring the RPM up, and then release the brake and floor it. And so what that launch mode will do is that it will, to about 60 miles an hour, it will give you the most aggressive throttle and the variable shifting, which is the fastest way to get you to 60. So, and then once you're there, it'll revert back kind of to normal operation. And it'll do this regardless of which SI drive mode that you're in. Next up, brakes. So we We know some of our WRX owners have been asking for improved brakes, so we made some improvements there. The front rotors go from 11.6 to 12.4 inches. They pick up about 6 millimeters in thickness. And overall, fade resistance around our test track in Japan, about 40% more resistant to fade. So big improvement there. 2-pot front, 1-pot rear system. And we did make some other changes. We added a high response booster and a larger master cylinder. And those are going to give you a more solid and more linear feel and improve the responsiveness of the braking system. And also, we added our brake override system. It's something we've been adding to our cars as they've been redesigned, updated, and that's going to cut engine power in the cases where you are pressing both the accelerator and the brake at the same time. Here, just a little bit of a chart here to kind of show where we are. So we made those changes to the brake system to give you kind of more linear braking feel. And so this is a chart of deceleration versus brake stroke, WRX versus some kind of key cars here known to have really good braking performance. As you can see, WRX is it's not at the front, but it's in line with a pure sports car such as the BRZ or the Cayman S. So really much closer in braking feel to these cars than some of our other cars here, 335i, RX-8, or R32. In terms of packaging, similar body length and a larger cabin and a longer wheelbase. In terms of width, it's up about 2.2 inches versus Impreza, which is the same increase in width as the old WRX versus Impreza, so this is still a wide body design. A-pillar goes forward at the base about 8 inches, and that's going to help with aerodynamics and visibility. The shoulder line, which I can't really show you here because there's no door, but that's down about 2 inches, 2.5 inches. That's going to give you better visibility. More shoulder room, more leg room, more interior room, so a lot more efficient packaging, but the car doesn't get any bigger on the outside, really. In terms of entry and exit, not too much to say, but the door openings are both significantly wider front and rear, so that's going to let you get more cargo into the car easier than before, and your step-in height's a little bit lower, it's a little bit easier to get in and out of. In terms of cargo capacity, trunk volume goes up from 11.3 to 12 cubic feet. We can now fit 4 golf bags up from 3, so every passenger can have their golf bag with them in this car. The load floor is lower and flatter, and the trunk openings is a little bit wider to make it easier to get stuff in and out. In terms of interior styling, a lot of updates there. In the corner here, you can see everything orange is unique for WRX versus what was in Impreza, and lots of little pockets and storage in the car that is going to make it easy to live with. I know this is not the primary concern for a WRX buyer, but if you have the car, it's going to be very, very convenient. Lots of storage inside the car. Next up, steering wheel. As I mentioned earlier, the diameter drops a little bit from 14.75 down to 14.5. And then for comparison, BRZ is 14.1, I believe. So kind of splitting the difference between the current car and the BRZ steering wheel. It's D-shaped, it's much thicker cross-section and softer material. So it's going to feel great in your hands. In terms of the seats, we've got larger bolsters, but we did go to separated headrest design versus the old car where the headrest was integrated into the seat back. We had to do that for whiplash safety performance, but we did use the tilt adjustable headrests so you can find a comfortable position for your headrest no matter how you got the seat arranged. High friction fabric to help keep you in the seat when you're driving aggressively. Taller backrest for more support on your back, and a greater range of seating adjustment so it can be comfortable for a wider range of drivers. Next up, we've added our color multifunction display. This is similar to what you may have seen in the Forester or the Crosstrek Hybrid, but we did add a boost screen that's going to give you peak boost and current boost information as well as accelerator input information. And then, of course, all the other screens, the VDC system, fuel economy, audio information, and I guess outside temperature and clock, and etc. And so this is standard equipment. It's going to be on every car. In terms of the gauges, they've got a three-dimensional kind of appearance with the gauges. And we also pick up a 3.5-inch color LCD in between the two gauges. Again, that's on all models. That's going to give you driving times, going to give you your SI drive info on the automatic cars, digital speedometer, cruise control, and an odometer info. So next up, audio systems. So one of the things that we know WRX owners have been asking for a long time is a really great audio system. And again, one of the advantages of freeing up resources by focusing on one body style lets us do more of this stuff. So we were able to partner with, to work with our partners Harman, who've helped us with some of our other product lines and develop a really great audio system for WRX. It's a 440-watt, 8-channel system with 9 speakers. It's going to give you, well, basically all the sound quality and sound performance was tuned with Harman engineers to give you distinctive bass and true sound reproduction. And we added a mass damper to the body to suppress vibration at the higher volumes, which the owners will probably use more often than not. And overall, the tuning was, I guess, kind of tuned in line for our expectation of the WRX buyer preference. So a lot more sound pressure at the lower frequencies, a lot more lower frequency bass in the music is available for these buyers. Much more so than the Harman system in the Forester, which is here in the green. I know this chart's hard to see. The WRX here is in the red, but also more so than the Mazda 3 Bose system and the Ford Focus system. So it's going to have a lot of punch. Next up, fuel economy. So fuel economy with WRX is kind of an interesting story. On the manual transmission cars, it's up about 2 city and about 3 highway and combined. And I say about because these are estimates. The car hasn't been EPA tested yet. These are our estimates for where we'll end up, but we're usually pretty close to the final results. On the automatic transmission, we fall into kind of a strange government regulatory category. There's a strange rule involving cars with multi-mode transmissions, paddle shifters, and of a certain power to weight ratio. And when you have all these kind of boxes checked off, you have 2 options to kind of certify the car. You can test it in the most efficient mode, which for us would be I mode. And then after a year, the government's actually going to go survey the buyers, and if they find that not enough of them drive the car in I mode enough of the time, they'll make you retest the car in one of the other modes, and you'll have to revise your ratings. Your other option is to just test it using kind of an average of the modes, which will give you a lower number. So we didn't want to revise the ratings later, and we also didn't want to detune the performance of the automatic transmission to get an arbitrary fuel economy rating. We know our buyers with this car are more concerned with performance, so we just kind of stood our ground and we tested it with the lower rating. So the Monroney label is going to say 19 city, 25 highway. But in our testing internally, which we can't actually advertise or say or use really, but in I mode, it would be 30 on the highway. So you may be able to easily exceed the posted fuel economy ratio with the automatic. The halogen headlamps will give you a little bit better range. I think it's about 10%. Tail lamps are LED on all models. And then, one other comment with the headlamps. In order to make the headlamps thinner and kind of a more aggressive kind of style, we pulled the turn signals out of the lights and put them down lower in the bumper, which our car doesn't have a bumper, but that lets us make the headlights thinner, lower profile design. And next up, safety. So safety always, of course, very big deal for us at Subaru. So showed you this picture before. You can see, again, all the reinforcements of the car in terms of safety, high-strength steel, reinforced bumper beams. In terms of the front collision management, we did make a number of enhancements for the new IIHS small overlap test. As you know, this test is really difficult test to meet because all of the crash energy is absorbed over just a small portion of the width of the car. It's a really extreme collision. And so for that test, we reinforced the door hinges. We added an additional fastener to the door hinges on the driver's door. And we added this little pink guy here. And on this car, it's green, this brace here. We reinforced the bumper beam. That's going to help channel the energy into the frame rail. We also thickened the floor pan and beefed up the A-pillar at the base and in the middle. And here's an example of the test. So all of the crash energy is basically just going into the area behind the headlight. And then you can see here the reinforced bumper beam and the kind of add additional gusset here to help bring the energy into the frame rail so it's distributed throughout the structure. Our expectation with small overlap of cars hasn't been tested yet, but we're expecting good results with that test. In terms of side collision and roof crush, high tensile steel for the side sill and the center pillar. We've got hot pressed steel in the A-pillar. Roof crush is 4 times the vehicle's weight, which is in excess of the regulatory requirement of 3 times. We added some additional impact sensors and reinforced some additional parts inside the doors for side impact. Onto the rear, the structure is designed so even if you're hit on an offset rear collision, the energy is going to be distributed to the other side of the car and through the frame rails and then kind of diffused throughout around the cabin. Onto the seats, much more rigid than the current seats, which is going to help the safety. The separated headrests help the whiplash performance. And there's, on the seat back itself, there's kind of an S-shaped hook, which is going to basically stretch out in a hard rear impact, and it's going to let your whole torso move back into the seat to help reduce the whiplash. So it's kind of a clever design. Overall, key safety features, we've got 7 airbags, including the new driver's knee airbag, and our PVC system, ring shape reinforcement frame, brake assist and brake override, and our overall targets are for top safety pick, and our NHTSA 5-star overall rating. And then the other part of safety is visibility. Visibility is always an important part of design for us at Subaru. If you're more aware of your surroundings, you're less likely to be involved in an accident in the first place. And so to that extent, this car picks up the narrower A-pillars. They're moved forward. We added the partition glass at the base of the A-pillar and moved the mirrors down into the door. That makes a big difference in visibility to the forward left and forward right. The instrument panel is lower at the top, about 2 inches versus the outgoing car. And the shoulder line, again, it's lower. And rear vision camera, standard equipment.